Today, we're gonna be talking about how to catch 10 times more bass any time of the year. I'm talking all 12 months. It doesn't matter when you use these techniques. It could be in a pond, it could be in a river, it can be in a lake, it can be in a big lake with a big boat, it can be in a stock pond. Anything, all these techniques are gonna apply. So we're gonna go ahead and hop into it from basic techniques all the way to tips with the rigs, all the way to colors of baits, depending on what type of fishery you are fishing. So let's go ahead and hop into it. Since we got that out of the way, let's go ahead and look at what I just picked up from the tackle shop. So let's go ahead, slide down here. I actually went by Bass Pro and picked up a few things. I actually have a tackle box. This is actually my own tackle box. I didn't pick that up from Bass Pro, but I did pick up a few things in here and I want to show y'all.
Before we get deeper into this video, only 27% of y'all watching these videos are actually subscribed. So if you could, take the time, hit the subscribe button. It really helps the channel. I'd appreciate it.
This first rig that we're going to talk about is pretty sweet and basic. It's going to allow you to catch a lot of fish, but as we get further on into the video, I have a couple rigs later on that you guys need to hear. It is going to help you catch fish anywhere and everywhere, and I'm telling you, they cannot just not bite the bait. Like, you're gonna catch fish on these rigs. So the first thing that I want to talk about is the bait that we're using. This is actually a Strike King Ocho. So this is pretty much a standard Senko, but it is slightly different. Now let me show you why. Let's go ahead and get this bait out of the package. So right here we got technically a standard stick bait, but what Strike King does is they make their baits a little unique, okay? And what they do with it, when you have a standard Senko, is fully rounded, just fully cleared on the edges. This one is actually like a octagon, as you guys can tell by the front of the bait. It's got sharp edges, and pretty much what that allows you to do, so say let's just say for instance, we wacky rig this bait just like that. It's gonna allow this bait to twitch more as it falls. It's gonna have more of a tighter motion of it wiggling as it falls to the bottom. So that's something that's really cool about this Strike King Ocho and what makes it different than any other Senko. But we actually have another Senko bait that I wanted to show y'all. So this bait is pretty cool. So this is called the Zero Z2. It's a different Strike King line. This one, as you can tell, it's just basically shedded and rounded around the edges. Standard Senko. But looking at this bait, you'd be like, okay, this is just a regular stick bait. But the one cool thing about it is, one, it's got a lot of flexibility there, as you guys can tell. And two, if you guys are somebody who doesn't want to spend a lot of money, you're on a budget, you don't want to run through a bunch of soft plastics, because I promise you guys, after watching this video, you're going to catch 10 times more fish. So guess what? You're probably going to go through 10 times more plastic, okay? And that is why I brought out the Z2 today. So let me show you guys. You guys see how flexible that bait is. I mean, I could do anything. I could jump rope with this thing, I'm telling you. This thing's got a lot of stretch. Therefore, it's gonna last through a lot more fish. Obviously, when I stretch it out like this, it's gonna mess with the color a little bit there. But I can pretty much show you how much stronger that this plastic is. So Strike King partnered up with Z-Man with their Elastec technology and pretty much made this bait. If I grab an Ocho, it's gonna be a little softer. It's gonna be pretty tough, but I mean, I could pretty much break that bait, okay? So the cool thing about the Z2, a lot of flexibility. You're not gonna be going through baits as much. That's one cool thing to check out. Before we talk about the rigs, I want to talk about the rod that I have this on today. So this is actually a Kicking Their Bass TV X-Lose combo. Kicking Their Bass is my brand, partnered up with Lose, and we came out with a beautiful kicking combo. And this is a combo that is affordable. One, this is $150. We also have spinning combo, that's $110. My main goal with this combo was to, one, make a combo that's affordable, and two, make a combo that's versatile. This is a 7:5-to-1 gear ratio reel. This is a rod right here that you guys can throw pretty much anything on. You could throw a spinnerbait, you could throw a chatterbait, you could throw a crankbait. We've even thrown, you're not really supposed to, but we've thrown 10XDs on this rod. It's handled it just fine. You can throw top waters on this rod. You can throw any soft plastics. That is the reason why we came out with the Kicking Their Bass line of bait casters and spinning combos, because you can throw just about anything on it. So if you guys would like to check these out, kickingtheirbass.com, I'll have them linked down below. So now that we talked about the bait and also the combo we're gonna be putting it on, let's go ahead and talk about our first rig that we're gonna be doing today. So this rig is pretty cut, sweet, and basic. I have a couple rigs towards the end of the video that I really want you guys to go try. It's gonna help you catch a lot more fish. Not only will this rig catch you a lot more fish, but I'd say it's probably the most basic that anybody can go out and do, which I really like. Okay, so first rig we're gonna talk about is a basic Texas rig. Right here, we have a 4/0 extra wide gap hook. And right here, we got a 3/16 ounce bullet weight. This is actually a lead weight. You can go with tungsten. I will say tungsten's gonna be a little more expensive. Your lead's gonna be a little cheaper. And I know you guys are probably saying that's a painted lead weight, and it is. It actually looks pretty slick. It's just a simple lead weight though, it's not a tungsten. But all you need for this rig, extra wide gap hook, bullet weight, obviously your Senko. Okay, so let's go ahead and tie this on. So while we're about to tie this up, I want to talk about line. That's very important. For this simple Texas rig, I would suggest anywhere between 12 and 20 pound. If you're going to go up to 20 pound, I'd say you're fishing some very heavy cover, some thick trees. My personal preference is 17 pound. That's always what I stick to. If you're fishing somewhere with a little more clear water, maybe you can back down to that 12, but at the end of the day, I think it's personal preference. The cool thing about, you know, watching somebody and how they fish is that there really are no rules to fishing, guys. I like to say that a lot because I don't go by the basics. I like to fish in my own way and learn different things. And the cool thing about it is you can have the most experienced fishermen in the world come watch this video or any other video on YouTube and possibly learn something, because everybody does things in a different way. And that's the glorious part. So what we're gonna do with this rig, we're gonna get our bullet weight. This needs to go on first. We're gonna put it on our line. Make sure that tip is faced upward, okay? Now we're gonna go to our extra wide gap hook and we're gonna go ahead and tie this on, okay? And the knot that I use is actually a uni knot. I'm not gonna go in depth in this video on it, but if you guys wanna check it out, just go on YouTube, type in Kicking Their Bass TV knot, the video will pop up for you. Once we have our knot there, we're gonna wet our line, cinch her tight, boom. We're gonna take our pliers, our scissors, cut off our tag end, and boom. You got this cone point facing upward, you got it on your extra wide gap hook. Okay, now's the next step is to rig up our bait. You have your hook, you have your ocho. You're going to want to put the hook through the center of the ocho, and just know that this is the flat end. You have a pointy end, you don't want that. You want the flat end going in, okay? You're gonna put it right there to right where it's gonna bend, and right where it's about to bend, you're gonna break that hook back through, okay? Once you do that, you're gonna slide the front of your bait all the way up the hook. See, that's your eye. Rotate it, slide it all the way up. Okay, now your bait's laying like this. The next thing we have to do is I like to lay my bait, in this case my Senko, on the back side of that hook, and I can see right where this end part of the hook's at, that's exactly where you're gonna wanna penetrate the point, okay? So we're gonna go slide this bait back, boom, bring the hook through the soft plastic. And another thing that we're gonna wanna do, you're gonna end up getting this hooked up on whether it's grass, whether it's any vegetation in the water, lay downs, you're gonna end up getting hooked up. So what I like to do is I pull my bait up just slightly and I bury that hook into the bait. So right now, that is weedless. As you can tell, I'm rubbing my hand in front of it, it's not hooking me. It's because that point of the hook is buried into the bait. And I know you guys are probably asking, is that gonna hurt your hookup ratio when a fish bites it? It will not. It's this plastic's very soft. As you can tell, right when I pushed that, the hook popped right back out. So just know that you can bury that bait and you can get this thing through a lot of cover a lot easier. Okay, to conclude this rig, I want to talk about how to fish it. So we're gonna throw this bait in the water. I'm gonna talk about a couple different ways to work it, possibly ways that you guys haven't seen before. And then after that, we're gonna hop onto this next rig that I'm so excited to show you guys about. So we got our 17-pound line, got it paired up on our Kicking Their Bass TV X Loose combo, got our Texas rig with the ocho on the end. It's time to cast it out. So out here in this pond, it's pretty shallow water. You got about 3 to 4 foot right here. And right here in this little pocket, in this corner, there's actually a bunch of submerged cover. So you got a bunch of little lay downs right out here. So we're gonna cast our bait, boom. We're gonna let our bait hit the bottom. Just know that when you're fishing this bait, when you're fishing this Senko, you're gonna wanna work this on the bottom. This is a bottom bait. So once our baits hit the bottom, we're gonna reel up our slack. As you guys can tell out there, reel up our slack, then we're just gonna drag the bait, okay? Once we drag the bait, we're gonna lower our rod tip, okay? The bait's just chilling on the bottom. We're gonna wait a few minutes, not a few minutes, few seconds. Okay, reel back up our slack. We're gonna drag again. I'm feeling all that cover down there. I'm bringing it over these branches. Now we're just gonna lay our rod tip down, let our slack line out, wait a couple seconds, reel up again. Continue that process. That is one simple way to work this bait. And I'm gonna tell you, not every day they're gonna eat it like that. And that's why I wanna show you guys a couple different methods to work this bait. So, since we got that one down, that's pretty much a simple drag and pause method. There's some days I'm gonna move this bait a little bit more. I wanna get a little more active with it. So I wanna kind of pop my rod tip like that. All I'm doing is kind of popping my bait. Pop, pop, pop. You don't wanna go too aggressive with it. You just kind of wanna give it some pops off the bottom. So what that's doing is that bait's just hopping now. Instead of more of a drag, that bait's hopping. Boom, let our bait hit the bottom. Do it again. Pop, pop, pop. Then we're gonna let it pause, let it sit. Reel up our slack. Pop, 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 pop. That's two different methods to work this Texas rig to get a lot of bites. Now, one that I really like, and this is probably my favorite. Say there's a tree out there and I know it's underwater because I felt it or I see it, okay? I'm gonna throw my bait up there, and instead of popping it aggressively like this, I'm actually going to reel my line to where there's no slack in the line. As you guys can tell, my line is going straight from my pole into the water. That means there's no slack. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab the back end of my rod. I'm gonna grip my thumb here, and I'm just gonna do that. What that's gonna do is allow that bait to barely move. This is actually a technique I use in the springtime when the bass are bedding a ton, but I actually tend to use this more often than not. I mean, I'm doing this 12 months out of the year. If the fish are really finicky, that's one good way of moving your bait instead of just dragging it, but giving it a little bit more something to where these fish are gonna bite. So just like that. So once I do that, I kind of let the bait sit for a second. I might drag it in one rip. I'll let it hit the bottom and I start doing that again. That is a great method to getting some more of these finicky fish to bite and give it a little something to entice them to fully eat the bait. So before we move on to the next rig, I want to show you guys something with this Texas rig that is going to allow this bait to be a little more finesse, okay? I actually took my bullet weight off my line. It's not there anymore. I still have my worm on my hook. So I'm pretty much gonna tie this thing up weightless, okay? So pretty much the same rig, but just without the bullet weight. So we have our bait, pretty much the same rig, guys. You're gonna rig this up the same way, just minus that weight. So this is a lot lighter, okay? If you guys are getting into bass fishing, I'd probably suggest throwing this on more of a spinning combo. You can throw this on a bait caster if you're a little more advanced. Just make sure you obviously tighten down your brakes and make sure everything's good there. That's for another video though. Pretty much what's gonna happen when you throw this bait out there, since it doesn't have a weight in the front, it's gonna take a lot more time to fall to the bottom, which is really cool with this Ocho because you got these hard edges. So when this bait's falling, it's gonna slightly shimmer just like that. Those hard edges are gonna catch that water. It's gonna allow that bait to kind of move in that direction as it's falling to the bottom. You're also gonna have this tail lift up a little bit. So you're gonna have the bait fall down. And I'll tell you, a lot of the time when you're fishing this bait, you're gonna have a lot of these fish actually eat the bait on the fall, which is pretty cool. Let's go ahead and throw our bait out here. I can still get a good distance on there. I'm gonna tell you, just because this bait's weightless doesn't mean it's not heavy. This bait actually has a good bit of salt in it, and I can still throw this thing very far on a bait caster. So we just threw our bait out there. Obviously it's taking a little bit longer for this bait to hit the bottom, but as I can tell now, our line's floated on the top of the water, so that bait isn't sinking anymore. So what I'm gonna do with this one, I'm just gonna slightly drag it. This is more of a method that you can pretty much do nothing. I like to call it the do nothing method. You can kind of sit there and let the bait do all the work for you. So we're kind of reel up our slack a little bit, pop our bait ever so slightly, pop it 2 or 3, 4 times, and then just let that bait fall again. So all that bait's doing is you're popping it, gets off the bottom, and then as your line's slack, it's just sinking right back down. Then you pop it again, off the bottom, sinking back down. We're just gonna repeat the process until you get it back to the bank. And there's another method of you could just drag it. Just drag it and then let it sit. But this is one of those methods where if those fish are just not biting, you're having the hardest time getting a fish to eat anything. This is one method that's gonna catch you a lot of fish. It's just something that's more finesse. It's not as flashy, it's not as poppy. It's just kind of sitting there. You let the bait do the work for you, and more than likely those finicky fish are gonna eat it. Okay guys, before we get to the rig that I've been wanting to show you guys the whole video, I'm going to actually whip out my Kicking Their Bass TV X-Lose spinning combo here. If you want to check it out, you guys know kickingtheirbass.com. This is going to be perfect for y'all that are just getting into fishing. You want something that's going to cast good. this is the rod that you need to go with. Baitcaster is a little more advanced. It doesn't take too much time to learn it, but it does take time. This is something that you can rig some line up on, go out in your backyard or wherever you're going and cast right into the water and have no problem with it. One thing that we don't want to do with this braid is tie our bait directly to it. This line is not clear. You can fish with just braid if you want, but I wouldn't suggest it. So with this, we're actually gonna have 8 to 12 foot of fluorocarbon that we're actually gonna tie to the braid. So the knot that I actually use is called a uni to uni knot. So it's pretty much a uni knot 2 times on each side. I'm not gonna go in depth in this video and show y'all, but you guys can definitely find it on YouTube. And this is a way that you can tie pretty much line together. And the fluorocarbon that I'm using is actually 10 pound. I like to match it with my braid. So if I got 10 pound braid, I'm gonna flop 10 pound fluoro on there. Boom, and just like that, we tied our braid to our fluorocarbon. And like I said, I got 8 to 12 foot on this. That's what I like to do on my spinning combos. All right, boys, now that we have our leader line rigged up, it is time for the rig I've been talking about, a little technique. Okay, so when you guys hear this out of my mouth, you're probably gonna say, man, I've tried this before, but listen, we have a couple different ways to fish this rig that's gonna help us get a lot more bites. And that's why we're making this video. So the rig that I've been hyping up is the wacky rig, okay? This is a way that you guys are gonna be able to catch a fish anywhere. I'm talking, it doesn't matter how big they are, whether they're 10 pound bass, whether they're half pound bass, any of these fish will eat a wacky rig. So when it comes to wacky rig fishing, I stick pretty basic and I just get a regular circle like finesse wide gap hook, just like that. That's usually what I do. But there's a bunch of different options. I've seen a lot of people just use like a regular straight shank worm hook. Then you also have the standard circle hook, and it actually has a little wire there, so it makes it weedless, which I'll show you guys here in a second. And then there's another option, which is a weighted wacky hook. So those are the hooks that we have. So let's go ahead and rig one of these puppies up, and I can show you what the wacky rig's about. If there is any rig in bass fishing as a whole that just catches fish, guys, it is the wacky rig. Especially if you guys are a beginner and you just want to go out and you want to go catch some fish, tie you on a wacky rig. You're gonna have to throw this on a spinning rod, by the way, and that's why I was talking about rigging up that fluorocarbon on here, because this bait is so light, it's gonna be very hard to throw it on a bait caster unless you're throwing the weighted wacky rig. Wet our line, boom, and there we go. We got our little circle hook right there. And so now I'm going to show you guys exactly how to rig up this wacky rig. I'm actually going to go with an ocho, because what I was explaining earlier, the edges on this ocho actually allow the water to pick up and maneuver and move this bait and have it wiggle a little tighter and more of a wobble action when it falls. So what you're going to want to do is you have this circle hook here. You're going to want to get your stick bait. Okay, if we hold it here, you see how it's shaped just like an upside down U? We're gonna want to hook it there right in the middle, just like that. And that is our standard wacky rig. And you guys see what's happening when I flop it? That bait is creating a little bit of action on both sides, okay? So what's gonna happen when we throw this bait in the water is you're gonna throw it out there and it's gonna slightly kind of shift like this, but with those hard edges on this Senko, it's slightly gonna be shimmying. So you're gonna see it slightly fall just like this. It's gonna be shimmying back and forth at the same time. This is a bait, when we're talking about a bait that's gonna work for you, this bait's gonna work a lot for you, but let me show you guys exactly how I would fish this in the water to get the most bites possible. All right guys, so like I said, got it paired up on a spinning combo. This is something that's very light, and you're gonna have to throw it. So say we're out here at this pond, and this goes for rivers, it goes for lakes, it goes for anything. What do bass love? Especially largemouth bass. They love cover, they love wood. They're gonna be up on here. Right here on this bank, we got this nice little tree line. Got a willow tree right here. Got a couple willow trees in the back. And this whole edge has a bunch of cover. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this wacky rig. We're gonna throw it right there down that bank line, okay? When we throw it out there, all we're gonna do is sit back and kind of relax for a minute. We're just gonna let that bait sit in the water, and we're just gonna kill it for a second. We're gonna make sure our drag's set here. Pretty loose. Okay, now that our bait's on the bottom, I actually thought a fish was biting. It looked like my line was running. So all you're gonna do with this wacky rig, you let it sink to the bottom, and you're gonna reel up your slack, and you're just gonna pop it a few times. So all that bait's gonna do, it's like what I was showing you before, when you pop it, the bait's just gonna flutter up. And then once you stop popping it and you let your line go slack, it's just gonna sink and kind of sink down to the bottom. A lot of your bites that you're gonna have on this wacky rig are actually gonna come when your bait's falling. So when you pop that bait a couple times, you bring it off the bottom, it's going pop, 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 and then it's slightly falling. This is a great method, whether these bass are really finicky, whether these bass are biting really good, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the conditions, it doesn't matter the time of year. This bait is gonna catch fish year round. There's another method that we can use to get a ton of bites. Throw our bait out there, let it sink to the bottom, and all we're gonna do is kind of reel it a few times and just let that bait sink. With this method, you can pretty much control your destiny with it. And what I mean by that is you can sit here for a minute and let it sit there on the bottom, or you can sit here for 10 seconds. Just know if the bass are really finicky that day, you're probably gonna wanna let it have a longer pause than usual. Give it a couple more pops, drag it out, let that bait sink. And you just repeat that process, and I promise you, you're gonna get a lot of fish to bite. Now that we talked about how to fish the standard wacky rig, weightless, that's gonna catch a ton of fish, another good perk about this bait is pretty much if you have a pond that has just a ton of grass in it, but there's little holes in the grass, you can easily get this wacky rig in. This is weightless, it's gonna slowly float down. It's gonna be a lot easier to catch fish in some of those areas. But the one thing I kind of want to harp on and let you guys have an understanding on are the different methods to rig this wacky rig. I showed you all these hooks. So with this one, this is the most standard wacky rig method. Simple little hook like that. This one actually has a weed guard. You guys are probably asking, Noah, what is a weed guard? Let me show you. So this is gonna help you, especially because this wacky rig, I mean, if you're throwing it around trees, you're probably gonna get hung up. This is gonna be a savior for you. And pretty much know that this is gonna keep a lot of stuff from hanging up on this bait. That isn't the perfect example for it. So I actually have another one here. This is the weighted one that also has a weed guard. Let me show you this. So if you're having problems hanging up on stuff, you're gonna wanna get some of these hooks with weed guards. That's another guard right there that's gonna help glide this bait off of any cover. Don't get me wrong, it's not gonna be perfect like a Texas rig, but I'll tell you, that's gonna help a lot just between you getting snagged up. Because the last thing we want is to be getting snagged up all day and losing a bunch of baits. So I also talked about this standard straight shank worm hook here. This is just a personal preference. Some guys like to use a bigger hook with their wacky rig. I like to use just the standard circle hook. That's what I prefer. But this is another method that a lot of people like to use. So now let's talk about the hook with a weight on it. So this is gonna be very beneficial for y'all that are fishing in a little deeper water. Say you're on a clear lake. I'm from Lake Lanier, big spotted bass fishery. I'm probably not gonna go out on Lake Lanier with a weightless wacky rig unless I'm fishing in the springtime and the fish are up spawning. This is gonna allow your bait to get a lot deeper. Like say I'm fishing 10 to 15 foot of water. I can fish a wacky rig with a little weight on that in 10 to 15 foot. If I'm fishing the weightless one, with how this bait's gonna flutter down, it's gonna take half a century for your bait to hit the bottom. So just to fish more efficiently, I would say if you're fishing deeper water, definitely go with the weighted wacky rig. So those are just some of the options with the wacky rig. But now that we went over the Texas rig, we went on multiple different ways to rig up the Texas rig to get more bites. We also went into the wacky rig, multiple different ways to rig up the wacky rig to get more bites. Now we're gonna go ahead and test both of these baits and see if we can catch some fish on them. Before we cast out here and catch some of these fish, there's one more thing I wanna talk about, which I think is really important that I haven't hit on, is colors and when to pick which color. So right here we got the two Senkos that we've been talking about. One of these is black and blue flake. Another one is watermelon red. This is a rule of thumb. Dirty water, more stained water that you really can't see through, pretty dirty, you're gonna wanna go with your darker colors, like this black and blue. We're fishing clear water. I'm gonna go with more of my watermelons, more of my green pumpkins. So to give a little example, right here, we got black and blue flake. For dirty water, black and blue flake, June bug, black and red, any of your darker colors for dirty water. We're sticking to clean water, your watermelons, your watermelon reds, your green pumpkins. Those are gonna be the colors that you're gonna wanna use in clear water. So that's just a little rule of thumb. Dirty water, dark colors. Clear water, clean colors. Now let's go ahead and see if we can catch a fish on this old wacky rig here. As we talked about earlier this video, I'm working this pretty basic. popping it up a few times, letting my line slack, letting it sink. Wait a few seconds, reel back up, pop it again. There's a bunch of trees that are submerged right here on this bank, so I'm keeping that in mind. I'm just working this thing really slow. It's one of the most finesse baits that you can throw. I'm telling you, these fish love it. Really, anywhere and everywhere you go, whether it's a pond, river, lake, does not matter, they'll eat it. All right, boys, well, I ended up breaking off my wacky rig and I went back to the truck and grabbed my Texas rig. Now, this is a really great talking point. So out here, there's a lot of laydowns, a lot of brush in the water, and I'll tell you, that wacky rig has that exposed hook. Yes, we could have switched to the one with the weed guard and probably helped minimalize our hangups, but I'll tell you, this spot, the Texas rig is more optimized for it. And I'll tell you, this is perfect because this is the other technique that we talked about. So there's going to be certain scenarios to where you need to whip out one or the other with these rigs. And with this scenario being that there's a lot of trees, a lot of things that we can get hung up on, it's almost better for us to go to this Texas rig and fish some of this stuff. So we're gonna go ahead and throw out there and see if we can get nibbled on with this thing. We're gonna be able to fish this a lot more efficiently too. That wacky rig, I'll tell you, is a great rig and you're gonna be able to get so many bites on it. But the one thing I will say is that it takes a lot of patience. You're gonna be slowing down a lot, which is a good thing, especially this time of year. But I'll tell you, this Texas rig, I'm gonna be able to fish a little more efficient. I'm gonna be able to get a little further cast with it, just knowing that it has a weight on it, and I'm on my bait caster. And let's see if we can trick one of these fish down there to bite. I thought I got bit right away. That was actually that brush pile I got hung up on. Look at him running with me. Oh, there we go, boys. There we go. I got it right up on the edge of that tree, and that's a freaking big one too. Look at that. Oh my goodness, baby. Come here. Come here. Oh, that's almost a 4-pounder there. Let's go, man. There we go, boys. Right there on the Texas rig. Got it right in the top of his mouth. And he was tucked up in those trees right there. So I'll tell you, you know, that wacky rig we can skip and get up under those trees, but I'll tell you, that Texas rig, we can get deep in there, not worry about getting hung up. And we pulled us out a good 3-pounder. I hope you guys got some information out of this video. If you did, please hit the like button. Let me know what other tip videos you guys would like to see and if you'd like to see more. And like I said, go take some of these tips, apply it to your next day of fishing, and I promise you, you'll catch some more fish. But thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch y'all in the next one.